Jeez. How's it going, people? I just want to share with you this moment. Okay, moment. So simply, I'll be recording. I'll be recording. I'm working on recording basically a new course, and just want to share this moment with you. It's a bit of struggle. You will see a lot of nonsense things, and hopefully this will be enjoyable to some people. I don't know. Just want to share this with you. It has been a while that I do not upload any content, but this could be uh, something that's funny, at least, you know. All right. Okay. Let's say I'm on 720p. We have a couple of people watching. Okay. Topics blank. Okay. Let's see. No. Okay. Obligatory. Okay, this will be a test. This is a new episode. I'll be talking about Prestashop hoax. Let's see the quality of the sound. New episode I'll be talking about. Good. Screen recording. Screen. There we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to this new episode in which we'll be talking about the Prestashop hoax. So, okay. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to this new episode in which we'll be talking about the Prestashop hoax, what are they and how they are used in Prestashop. So we know that modules plays a big role in customizing Prestashop, and this integration took place using these hooks. So hooks are places in the code where module could describe. Oh shit, no. So hooks are places in the code where modules could subscribe in order to provide content or alter some features. And for our system, we have two types of hooks. The very first type is simply the display hook. They are mainly used in templates. They allow modules to provide content that will be injected somewhere in the template. And the second, before that we move. And here is an example here that I did pick from the blog reassurance module. So we have a method, a public function with the name hook display, and this is the part that we could say this is the signature of a displaying hook, and followed by reassurance. So this is basically whatever you want to call it, and it does accept a params array has a parameter. So here I just took off some treatment just to simplify the example, and it simply does return the content of display block product.tibia. The next type of hooks are the action hooks. They allow modules to be informed of something happening on the system and optionally alter the system behavior or by modifying provided data. For this second type, we can say that modules play the role of subscribers and require that an event happen at the system level that they execute something. And to make things simple to understand this, because it's a bit complicated comparing to the action hooks, I introduced this little example. Again, I took this from the block reassurance module, and specifically this hook action from controller set media method. Okay, so this is called an action hooks. And inside we have some treatment that, let me just explain what's going on here. We are using the media class, and we're calling this a static add gsdef method. And we are basically defining some JavaScript variable called ps icon colors, and we are defining the content to be configuration get psr or psres icon color. So if you remember what this get do from the configuration, we talked about this in the previous episode. And next we are defining some JavaScript and CSS style using the register style sheet and register JavaScript. Now it's a bit obvious here because we don't see what's going on behind the curtain. This is where we are subscribed. This is where we are dealing with that event happening at the system level. Now let's see. Now let's see what is really happening at the system level. And in our case here, it will be the front controller. So I call this a system level event, and we are here under the front controller, the set media method exactly. And here again, I took up some examples, some code actually. And I left this register style sheet that is simply registering some custom CSS files, and JavaScript again, register JavaScript. So it's pretty simple, this couple of lines. And here look at this hook exec action from controller set media, and we have an empty array. Okay, then just move back to the previous slide where we do see the name of this method is called hook action from controller set media. I think it does remember you. I think it does remind you of something. So it's basically what we are executing here, action from controller set media. So this is where the action is being initiated. This is where we are emitting the event, and this is where we are subscribing and doing something after that event has been received, let's say that. And here I would like to introduce to you how the syntax of executing a hook. So here we are calling a method from the hook class, a static method called exec, and we are passing the name of the event, if you can call that an event, or the name of the hook to be more precise, and we are passing an empty array, meaning that in addition to executing a hook, we can pass some data to the modules that are subscribed to this specific hook. And here just a reminder that a module could be subscribed to multiple hooks, and a hook could have multiple modules subscribed to it. Now let's move on to another topic here, which is creating a new hook. So Prestashop by default came with a load of hooks that, whether on the front end or the back end, do pretty much all the job, but for some time we need to create our own hooks. And this is how we can create ones. Okay, so Prestashop again offer the possibility to create our own hooks. We have a nomination rule, as we said previously. We have a couple of types of rules. As we said previously, we have two types of hooks. The ones are called actions, and the other one is called display. So for the action, it's basically the type that your module will get triggered by an event that takes place in the Prestashop system core level, somewhere in the controllers or the main class file, etc. And the display that simply renders the content either on the front end or the back end of your shop. So we have different ways to create a new hook. Well, we have a bit complicated way using the hook. The a bit complicated way is using the hook class, and this is the syntax. Well, it is really straightforward. We are created for. The very first way is a bit complicated comparing to the next one. Okay, this is bad. The very first solution to create a new hook is by using the hook class. So as you may see here in this code example, it's very simple and straightforward. We have the new hook and creating a new instance, defining the name, the title, the description, the position, and finally we end up with this add method that will register this new hook into our system. And the much more easy way is through the module. While doing the installation of our module, we call the register hook method, and we simply can pass whatever new hook we would like to have it. So look at this here. In this example, we are creating a display hook. This is why we starting it with a display keyword. It's a more on hooks, display, just to create a new hook. Well, we have the a bit complicated way using the half hook. Sure. Yeah, so just like 15 minutes will be deleted for now. Well, working graph. What is this? Now, we'll be deleting this. Okay. Sound is too low. Let me make this closer to me. Is that correct? Follow these stripes for we place them here. Put this little green there, I think. Okay, well. Okay, let's start from the scratch. Okay. Hooks introduction. Hey everyone, welcome back to this new episode in which we'll be talking about the hooks, what are they, and how they are used in our Prestashop system. So we know that modules plays a big role on customizing Prestashop, and this integration basically took place using hooks. So hooks are places on the code where modules that could be subscribed and provide content, whether HTML or certain code, JavaScript, whatever, that they inject the code there. They render something on that hooks. Okay, so it's a bit general presentation, but let me get into the subject quickly. So hooks are divided into two types in the Prestashop. We have what we call the display hooks. So they are mainly used in templates. They allow modules to provide content that will be injected somewhere in the template. And here is a quick example that I took from the display reassurance module, the reassurance module, what a weird name to have. Okay, so here we have a method, a public method with a hook display. This is the signature of a front hook or a display hook, and we end up with some key random keyword reassurance or whatever. And it does accept some parameters here, that is basically the scope or the context of Prestashop. And the important also that it does return certain letter in HTML or return some TPL files. So it's very simple and pretty much used by all the modules. Now let's move on to the second type of hooks, which are the action. Well, for the action hooks, they are a bit complicated because they allow module to be informed of something happening in the system and optionally alter the system's behavior by modifying provided data. So for this second type, for this action hook type, the modules play the role of a subscriber. No, that was bad. So for this second type, we can say that modules are subscribers and require that an event happen at the system level that they can execute certain actions. Okay, let's get into some example that we could understand better these approaches. So we have again the block reassurance, and I do pick the hook action front controller set media method. That is basically again a hook, but here with a different signature compared to the previous one, because the previous one, if you remember, it's called hook display, and here we are saying hook action, right? So hook action front controller set media, and we are doing some treatment here that is very simple here. Let me just explain you so quickly here. So we have media add.gsdef, that is basically defining a JavaScript variable inside the front end, and we're passing it later. And here we are using the configuration object that we talked about in the previous episode, and to get certain PSR icon colors. And here we're calling register style sheet and register JavaScript to define some assets, CSS and JavaScript files to the front end part of the shop, right? So pretty simple. Now let's move on to where this action is being initiated. So this is where actually we are subscribing to this event. We are reacting to certain set media action that's happened somewhere else on the system, and let's go ahead and see where this action took place, where it's being emitted, let's say, if we are talking reactive programming here. So here I took this example from the front controller.php, the set media to be specific, and here I took up some code to speed up, to make the code simple here, and I'm calling to register style sheet and JavaScript again to insert some CSS and some JavaScript files here. And look at this line here, hook exec, and we are calling action front controller set media, and we are passing an empty array. I think this does remind you of something that we saw in a second here. So action front controller set media is basically the name of the method. Action front end controller set media, and we simply concatenating the hook keyword here. So it's here where that hook is being initiated, so using this exact method. That will trigger an event, and so this hook exec method will trigger an event that all subscribed modules to that specific hook will be notified, and they will receive an array passed in parameter, and this is the array. In our case, it's simply an empty array. Also important to know that a module could be subscribed to multiple hooks, and a single hook could be also important to know that module can subscribe to multiple hooks, and a single hook could have multiple module hooked to it. Now let's move on with our course and ignore about it. Now, in addition to the predefined hooks by the core of Prestashop, we can create our own hooks. And to do that, well, it's relatively simple because we have some rules on the elimination to follow. First of all, we must tell whether our hook, our new hook, will be an action or a display. So if it's an action, then modules... I need a drink here, fuck. Hi Haytham, thank you, man. You appreciate it. Well, what I was. Okay, I think I'll stop this here and record the rest later. Okay, so screen recording.
Our own hooks. And to do that, well, it's a
Okay, let's start by creating a new hook. Okay, new screen recording. So in addition to the predefined hook in Prestashop that does okay. In addition to the predefined hooks, Prestashop offers the possibility to create our own custom hook. Again, let me just remind you that we have two types of hooks, the action hooks and the display hooks. So for the action, the type that you are get triggered by event that take place in a Prestashop, and the display is simply that will render content to whether front or the backend. Okay, let's see how to really create a new hook. The very first type or the very first solution to create a new hook is a bit complicated in my point of view, because you need to use the hook class, and using that instance you will be defining some parameters, and this example does illustrate pretty much all what you need to do. So here we have we are creating a new instance and we are defining the name, so the name will be the key here, and again here we are using the display because it's simply a display action, and if it was an action that would be having action my custom hook, right? So next we are defining the name. This will be like a human friendly name, like the name of your hook module. You can call it, for example, product image on click, something like that, something really random. And we have the description again for human stuff and the position, and finally we end up with an add, that is the method that do inject this hook into the database and make it available. The next type is more simple in my point of view, because it will be passing it through the register hook method that is callable during the installation of our module. So here I'll just pick this example randomly from certain module that is registering a new hook called display, my custom hook. And again, we are creating a display hook, not an action. If it was an action, then it would be an action right there. Okay. Thank you, Armin. Now let's take a simple example that we could understand what we saw so far. If you look at the front end of the front shop, if we look at the front page of our shop, we do see that the header section contains a bunch of HTML elements that are basically generated by specific modules. The sign-in element, for example, is generated by the PS customer sign-in. So this little section what we see here is the output of our okay, I think I will stop this and restart another time. So this will be the section.
And creating a hook is a bit complicated in my point of view. You can call it what? Register a my.
Okay. New screen recording. What are these things? Okay. Starting. Let's go ahead and visit the front page of our shop that we could understand what we saw so far. If we look at the front page and specifically the header section, we do see that we have a bunch of HTML components or elements that are basically generated by certain modules. If we look at this sign out here, and let me just inspect it. We have this little command that is telling us that the content that we are seeing here inside this desktop user info is coming from PS sign in customer module. Now the question how the content from this hook, from this, oh, now the question, oh, fuck it, that's bad, just like this. Stick to the speech. Screen recording. Now let's go ahead and try to understand what we saw so far with a real example. Now shit. Oh, this is why we need to get paid for these courses, because it's really mentally hard to focus. Do we have any people who are watching now? I think it's only me who is watching. Yeah, so almost 30 minutes and I have like 5 minutes of content that could be published. Okay, let's focus a bit. Okay. Let me prepare some code here. Let's close. Let's go to the header.php from our templates and be focusing on this little section here. Let's open a header tip. Yeah, let's look at the line 37. Let's pick a simple example that we could understand what we saw so far. If you look at the front page of our shop, we do see all the header section that contain a bunch of HTML elements that are basically generated by a specific module. The sign-in element, for example, is generated by the PS customer sign-in module. Now the question is how the content from this module has been injected into this specific part of our template. Well, the answer is well, the answer is, as you may guess, hooks. Let's explore this subject with more depth, and let's open the header.tpl file and go to the line 37 here. So we do see a syntax, certain syntax, Smarty syntax with a hook, keyword, and h equal to display nav1. So let me explain what is it. The hook is simply a method that is coming from that we are referencing the hook class, and h is simply the name of the hook. So here in our term we are saying go ahead and call the hook display nav1 at this specific place. So in another term again, all the modules that are hooked to the display nav1 will be rendered here. So for instance here, if I took away this line and I do refresh my page, and everything we do see here will be now let's go to the admin panel of our shop, and in my case it's adminos, and go straight forward to the page where we have the listing of the modules and where they are hooked. So here go to design, position, and in this drop down search sign in. So customer sign in link, and we do see that it's hooked to a hook called display nav 2, okay, and we have what we call the notion of order. So if I move this element to the top, then the order here will change. So now if I do refresh my page, look to the sign in position or sign out, it becomes to the far left. Okay, now if I took off or delete simply this line, then as you may guess, we won't have any element being rendered there. Let's put that back. And now I do invite you to go really deep more on this subject, and let's hook to the hook class and specifically to the exec method. So let's open this one. There we go. So this method is the heart of our hooking system, and by looking to the signature of this method we do understand a lot of things. So the very first thing is the hook name, and the good thing that we have a good documentation. So the hook name is simply the hook name that is being passed to be executed. So if I move back to the front controller where we call that exec, let me just do that again. There we go. So here, exec, we are passing the action front controller set media as a parameter. Now, the next attribute here is the hook args, and in our example, we pass it an empty array. So it's simply a parameter for the function. For example, we need to pass any parameters to the module who is subscribed to that hook, then we can pass it through this hook args. Then we are passing also the third parameter is the ID module. It simply execute hook for this module only. For example, if we are creating our own custom hook and we need it to be only executed for our module or by our module, then we can pass the ID of the module, and the ID of the module here will be its unique name. Then we have an array return. If a specified module will output will be set by the name in an array. So the rest of these parameters is not really interesting to look at them, but the important part is these two first parameters here. Wow, okay. It's hard. I think I will stop the course at the point where I talked about creating a new hook, I think, for the example. Let's see what's going on here, because
Let's pick a simple example that we could.
wow, the record didn't win. It only 3 seconds recorded, then it doesn't stop for no fucking reason, I don't know. Okay, I think
Action. Okay. PS customer sign in. So this little section what we see here is the output of our okay, I think I will. This will be like a human friendly name, like the name of your module. You can call it, for example, product image on click, something like that, something really random. And we have the description again for human stuff and the position. And finally, we end up with an add that is the method that do inject this hook into the database and make it available. The next type is more simple in my point of view, because you will be passing through the register hook method that is callable during the installation of our module. So here, I just pick this example randomly from Symfony that is registering a new hook called display, my custom hook. And again, we are creating a display hook, not an action. If it was an action, then it would be an action right there.
Good. Okay. Okay. All right. People, that was something behind the scene, how things are going and how this course was being recorded. So, by the way, this won't be on YouTube. Probably I will be creating a crash course on that, and I'll publish it to be free on YouTube. This will go on Udemy and on Skill-share. Yeah, I hope that could be somehow enjoyable to some people out there. Yeah, thank you. Well, the bad thing is that I cannot see how to stop this live. Where is the stop? Okay, come on. There is no stop. Oh, there you go.